I am recording right now. Testing 1, 2, 3. Say anything.
Oh, you want me to say something?
Just anything, yeah.
Yes. Hello, this is Landon. I'm playing with Garfield over here. Got my dream journal stanced up. I'm prepared for this interview.
Oh, hell yeah.
Over and out.
I might actually keep that. That's good shit right there. Greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our friend Landon from Eugene, Oregon, and he's going to share a dream with us. So as per my usual process, without further ado, we'll throw it over to you. Please share with us your dream when you're ready.
Alrighty. So, here we go.
Heyo.
Hey. So, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the video game The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion.
I did play it, yeah.
It was a huge part of my childhood, and I'm sure a large part of the childhoods of many Gen Zers. And well, it seems to be a recurring theme in my dreams. And well, the dream it started out, and there wasn't anything explicitly in the dream, like at the beginning of it or during it, where there was someone in my dream telling me that I was in, the Elder Scrolls universe or anything like that. I just kind of intuitively knew that it was Oblivion, even though there was nothing leading me to really draw that conclusion on my own. And so the dream started out, and I found myself, it was still dark out, but it was very early dawn, like maybe 4 or 5 a.m. before the sun had rose, but there was a little bit of light shining at the horizon, so I knew that the sun was going to rise soon. And I was wearing the default steel plate armor set from Oblivion, like just steel plate looking like a knight, and I had a like two-handed bastard sword that I was carrying with me, and I was just wandering a bunch of grassy hills with a little bit of sparse tree coverage, with those kinds that have like the weird droopy branches and leaves that hang over. And I walked along these hills until I got to a valley, and in the middle of the valley was a smaller river, and I spotted a castle at the end of the valley and at the end of the river, and I could see inside the castle windows. And in the courtyard, there were candles and torches that were lit, so I knew that there were, people or things living there. And so I walked towards the castle as the sun rose up. And it was still a little dark by the time that I got to the outskirts of the castle. And the castle itself was very, ominous and foreboding. It had, 15th century high Gothic architecture. It was like pitch black, purplish almost, very sinister. And I knew that, there was something evil there waiting for me. And I reached the outskirts of the castle, on the outside of the castle walls, where probably, peasants would live or whatever. And I saw a bunch of hay bales, stables, those fences that are made from twigs bound together and stuff. And I remember looking at this wagon. It was just a wooden wagon with large wheels. There wasn't anything in it. It was just an empty wooden wagon. But for some reason, I just found myself staring at it for a long while until I heard footsteps and weird monstrous noises, and I looked up from the wagon, and in the dream, I wasn't aware of what it was. It was just a creature. But after I woke up and kind of thought about it myself, I realized it was a dark elf vampire from the Elder Scrolls. And there were two of them. And everything that I was seeing in the dream, it didn't have Oblivion-style graphics. It was all completely realistic, lifelike, indistinguishable from reality. And so these dark elf vampires were genuinely terrifying. 7-8 foot tall, like with claws. They looked a lot like the vampire lord form that you transform into in the Dawnguard DLC of Skyrim, pretty much. And basically, they had lanterns, and they just walked towards me and brought out their claws and tried attacking me. And I just slew them both with my bastard sword. And they didn't put up much of a fight. I just killed them, and they barely really tried to attack me. And then I just looked up at the castle, and I woke up. So it was a pretty short dream.
Okay.
And the sun gradually rose, throughout the dream.
50.
But that's all there is to it.
There you go. Yeah, they don't have to be very long to get something out of it. And we're back to the cat, because cats are value-added content. Good deal. Okay, so that is the, I suppose I've taken to calling it the first pass, and we go back through for a second pass. I try and draw out some additional details, and then my cat comes and lays on my paperwork. Sonny boy, you can't. I love you, son. You got to go. Hey, I got work to do. I'm working. Come here. Can I pick you up? Oh, he's gonna let me hold him. He's looking lovey.
Nice.
You gonna pose for the camera? No, he says, fuck this. I'm out. That's okay. Okay, so we go back through for the second pass, and some things I like to know, or just ask whatever comes to mind. How long ago did this dream actually happen?
I would say, well, whenever it was that I posted in your Discord chat that I had a short dream for you to look at, which I think was like
last couple days. 3 days ago. Yeah. Okay. No, I just wondered, because some folks share dreams that they had, 5-6 years ago. So it's nice to know it's maybe more of a current context. And you're not still, or are you still playing Elder Scrolls? You playing ESO online or anything, or?
Not currently playing them. No, it's been like at least a good year since I played Skyrim, at least.
Okay. So, but that was more something you were doing a year ago. So sometimes that can relate. I'm trying to, just start putting those pieces together. Like, okay, when did this happen? Why is this imagery now occurring to you from that form that's from a year ago? These are the questions that start. I don't have answers yet, but that's where we're at. So in the very beginning of the dream, you said it's right before, well, first of all, you knew you were in this environment. You just intuitively knew this is this world that I've experienced in a virtual sense, and now I'm in it, really. Did you have any did you have a moment of that, like the isekai hero saying, I'm in another world, or you just any experiences like that?
No, there was no dialogue whatsoever. No one spoke. I didn't speak myself. I was just like in this knight's armor walking around, and I just knew that I was in Nirn, or whatever it is that the Elder Scrolls universe is called. Okay. But specifically in the time period of Oblivion and not any other game. Okay,
that's interesting. I guess what I'm getting at is whether you were surprised to be there, like you knew who you were in real life and now you're in this other place, or you felt a natural part of the world?
Yep, felt like a natural part of the world.
Okay, good deal. And
usually,
go ahead.
You do. I think usually you feel as if you belong in your dream most of the time, unless you are lucid. I think that just kind of goes with it. Like, dreams kind of feel normal. You don't really realize that you're dreaming while you're in it, unless you're lucid, which I wasn't.
Sure. Fair enough. Yeah. And that could have been a part of it. It could have not. I do a lot of what I call rattling doorknobs. I just ask things that come off the top of my head. It's not always the right direction to go, or I'm just curious about something. It doesn't pan out. It's all good. So you're saying specifically it was early dawn, and you had this sense that it was, the sun's just breaking out, and that usually means 4 or 5 a.m. before it starts coming over the hills. Okay. And you were, when you think of where you're at in relation to the hills and the valley and the castle and the river and that direction of travel, where was the sun relative to your position?
It was straight ahead of me and rising about behind the castle.
Okay.
There was another detail I failed to mention. One of the dark elf vampires was a woman. The first one that approached me was a woman, and the second one was a man, and it was bigger.
Okay. One male, one female. Okay. So you're in, where are we at here? And you realize you're in this setting, and you realize that you're in armor, and but it's just, it's not fancy. It's just standard default plate. So nothing, it wasn't adorned in any special way. It wasn't for show. It was more functional.
Yeah, and there were no distinguishing markings on it or anything. No heraldry, just a plain set of armor.
Yeah, there's something very like business-like about this. That's the term that came to my mind. This is not for show. This is real armor. It's really meant to protect you, and it ain't got to be pretty. It's got to get the job done. Might be something in there. And also, you said you had a kind of a two-handed bastard sword, so you weren't sword and board. It was more like you were kind of built for offense in a way.
Yeah.
Okay.
A theme that I often find in my dreams, for years now, it's probably been at least 6 years since I haven't done this in my dreams, even though I've never had a lucid dream. But these days, at least in my dreams, whenever there is any sort of conflict, where there's a monster or something attacking me in a dream, I instantly kill it or get rid of it or fight back, and that's it. So this is normal for most dreams where there's monsters or whatever.
Okay. Sorry for anyone listening to the full podcast here. You folks probably know by now I go silent a lot as I'm writing. Unfortunately, I can't think and talk at the same time, or write and talk. Just walk and chew bubble gum. So when you think of the moment you appeared in the dream, the moment you became aware of yourself having this experience, was there anything around you immediately? I mean, you kind of mentioned trees and a forest setting, grassy area.
Yep. Yeah. Well, when I first dropped into the dream and was aware of what was going on, just nothing but grassy hills and a bit of the sun peeking up from the horizon.
And then it was actually in moving towards that sunrise that then trees started to appear. So it was grassy hills and then trees.
Yeah, exactly. I descended off the end of one of the hills and then got into the valley, and in the valley there were trees.
Okay. That might be interesting too. That idea of the transition from where you started, big wide open space, down into a valley where now there's the trees, and you described them as kind of the droopy branch trees. I don't know. I think of weeping willow, like the ones where if you gather a bunch of them, you can kind of swing on them like a rope.
Exactly. It was one of those.
Okay.
Yeah, all the trees were those, and there were only a few of them.
Okay. Were you on any kind of discernible path that you could tell? Following a road?
Well, I walked in the same direction the entire time, and it was towards the castle. Even before I saw the castle and knew that there was one in the valley, I always walked towards it.
Okay. And how soon after you got down into the valley did you see that there was this castle at the other end? Was it almost like immediate? Did the vista opened up to you?
Yeah, pretty much. And the
Castle.
sun rising wasn't exactly behind the castle, but it was just a little bit to the left of it.
Okay. You never know if those little details might mean something. So it's
Yep.
good to know. Yeah, throw in anything you want. You don't have to wait for me to ask a question if you remember something, or you've been doing that as you go, so it's perfectly is bueno. Um, how did the river figure in? I guess what I mean to say is, where was it running in relation to the valley, to the castle, and then qualities of the river? It was small and calm. It was rushing and lots of rapids. What would you say?
It was a skinny, small, slow-moving river at the very center and the bottom of the valley, and it was flowing in the direction of the castle, and from me going towards the castle, I was walking with the current.
Okay, gotcha. When you do you remember crossing the river at any time? Was there?
Yep, I crossed the river from right to left, and there was no resistance at all. It was just a small river, and then I went on to the left side of the river, and that was where the path led me to the outskirts of the castle and the vampires and whatnot. It was all on the left side, and on the right side of the river there was nothing. And the castle was actually on the water of the river. Like there was like it extended from the left bank of the river and then into the center of the river, and it was extended on like a platform in the water. So
okay. All right, that's interesting. So you didn't cross a bridge. There was no bridge. You actually had to say ford the water. So you got to a spot where it was a little more shallow and wide and just a regular ford.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you described... Yeah, and at note, just for the river, at no time did you feel the river presented any danger or challenge. It was just there.
Nope.
You had to get across it. You did. No big deal. Okay. Yeah, that's what it sounded like. Just wanted to confirm. Where are we at here? So you got outside the river, or I'm sorry, you got outside the castle, and as you're kind of making that final approach, this is when you're noticing the details of it, and that it had, as you said, kind of a 15th century kind of Gothic look to it. And you described it as being kind of purple.
Yeah, like black, gray, or purple in color. The stone, the art, like the masonry of the castle was that sort of color. And the skin of the vampires was purplish in appearance.
Okay. And actually, I missed a detail that because you mentioned that even from a distance, and it was maybe say after you crossed the river, you noticed there were windows and that there was light in the windows. Was torches or candles?
Yeah. Yeah, there were light coming from the windows, and then a couple of braziers and torches that were mounted on the outsides of the castle.
Outside. So it looked, at that moment, you kind of had the sense it was occupied. Somebody was home.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you got there, it had the ominous, foreboding, sinister feel. Did you get the idea that was coming from the inhabitants? Like something inside that castle was dangerous?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Whatever was inside the castle.
Sometimes I copy over my old notes. I just write it again to It's all,
Yeah.
it's all in this process. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I just made this shit up, pulled it right out of my ass. In terms of like, I'm not following, nobody taught me how to do this. I just kind of cobbled this together. I'm hoping by the time I hit 1,000 interviews someday, fingers crossed, I will have gotten better at it. I would hope so after 1,000, but I'm thinking it may take that long for me to kind of figure out where I don't need to drag myself down with too much of the wrong kind of things, but I haven't figured out what those are yet, so I'm not changing anything yet.
Well, you definitely have a pretty fancy technique. You seem pretty skilled at this.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it's like if I just focus hard enough on something, I can usually figure something out. So, but even right now, I got just little wisps of something, little, like literally like will-o-wisps off in the distance. I'm like, do I want to follow that light off down that path? I don't know. But for most interviews, it's like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what to tell right now. I have no idea what to tell you about this. But we're going to get there. That always amazes me too, that like by the end of it, I got something. So,
yeah.
So how did you, no, you said you stood there for a little while, just kind of noticing what was around you. And it wasn't a long period of time before you then noticed the wagon.
Yeah.
You just kind of took note of, what did it say? There was, some of those bound twig, kind of fences, some, what might have looked like hay stacked near a stable. Where was that in relation to the castle, say?
Oh, it was further off to the left.
Okay.
There was like a little dirt path that led up towards the castle. And then to the left of that dirt path was all the hay and the stables and the wagon and a couple little houses off in the distance, which is where the vampires came from, off to the left as well. But then to the right, that was the path to the castle.
Okay, so there was kind of a split path, so to speak. One that went off towards the houses.
Yep.
Okay. And the hay stable wagon thing was down that same path, but before the houses. The houses were in the distance beyond that. Okay. Yep. And it was as you were looking down that path, kind of just so you saw the castle and you saw the fence and then you saw the hay in the stables and there's this wagon. And for some reason your mind focused on that and you had the experience of looking at it for some period of time.
Yeah.
I don't remember if you said if anything particular came to mind while you were looking at it, like if you had an idea of why it had attracted your attention.
No, I there was no real reason, no thoughts that came to me when I was looking at the wagon. I just remember looking at it and thinking that it looked nice, like it was a nice wagon, and yeah, that's all I know. Like it was a positive thing. Like I liked the wagon, and it brought me comfort somehow. And then the vampires came in and drew my attention away from the wagon.
And they came from, say, further down the path past the wagon? Like, as you're looking at the wagon, you saw them coming and they took your attention off of it?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, there we go. More cats. I love it. Okay. Just to linger on the wagon just a little bit longer. You said it was completely empty?
Yeah, as far as I can remember, I think it was empty. If it did have something in it, then it was probably hay.
Okay.
And I think that the wagon may or may not have been a covered wagon. But if it was a covered wagon, it wasn't like a pioneer style covered wagon. It was like it just had two little bamboo sticks with a square piece of fabric on the top of it.
It's like a little
on one end of it.
Tarp over it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it wasn't a covered wagon. Yeah, it wasn't piled high with supplies that were all roped down and tarped in. It was mostly empty, maybe a little hay, but it was in good condition, and it looked like it maybe was functional. It would do the
it was
job.
definitely functional.
And do you remember seeing any horses in the stable, or just the
Nothing.
aware?
No animals, no signs of life besides the vampires that eventually came.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to ask too, is if there were any other, birds chirping, crickets,
No, nothing.
anything, nothing.
No birds, fish in the river, nothing. No signs of life.
Okay, and then these. Can you say a little bit about the experience of having your attention drawn from the wagon? Like, what was that moment like when you're like, "Here come these vampires"?
I just remember seeing like the glowing light of lanterns in my peripheral vision, and then I heard the noises of them, and then I turned and looked and saw the two of them jogging towards me with their claws.
Okay. So they actually kind of came, not at a full sprint, but not walking casually.
Yeah.
They were kind of jogging, like they know you're there and they are coming to you.
Yep.
Okay. And they, at that point, already kind of had their claws out?
Yep.
Okay. And so and you said there was one male and one female. Were they shoulder to shoulder? Was one kind of leading the other?
Yeah, the female was in the front, and it was sort of leading the way for the male one. And the female was much closer to me than the male one. And it took a while of me slaying the female one for the male one to close the distance and get closer to me to attack me as well.
Okay.
And they were both wearing necklaces that were like spiky and gold, and they had red gems on them, and they had sharing necklaces.
Is that a specific item from the game, sharing necklaces? Or
no.
That's how you're describing, say, identical necklaces?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Gotcha. And then what about their clothes? Anything remarkable, or just in general?
They were scantily clad, I would say. The male was not wearing a shirt at all. Was wearing pants, I believe. They may or may not have been wearing shoes. I don't remember if the female vampire had a shirt. Maybe she had like a shawl just covering her breasts or whatever. But other than that, like, a crop top sort of deal. They both were, and they had like raggedy clothes.
Okay.
But the necklaces were very nice and pristine.
That's an interesting contrast there. That's what I was getting at too, is like, what did they look like? What were they wearing? And good description. These kind of like maybe poorer quality of clothes, but then wearing something of apparently significant value, gold, spiky, gems. That's an interesting, like, it doesn't fit. You would think maybe they'd be in robes. They'd be looking more royal with such a necklace, but they weren't. And also interesting, that say she led the way, was more aggressive, or had got a lead on the other one, and you had to fight her first. Did you defeat her completely before the other one arrived?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I just delivered a sort of diagonal blow from just sliced upwards diagonally once with the bastard sword, and then just kind of sliced her torso in two diagonally.
Okay. Were you having any kind of emotional experience while that fight was happening? Like, were you nervous to engage, or in fear of your life, like they might actually win?
I felt annoyance, maybe anger towards the vampires, just because they, went up with me with their claws out, and I was just smiting them with my sword out of anger, like they were evil vampire monsters. Sure. And I was, so it was just what had to be done.
Yeah, they weren't there for a cup of tea, but also you weren't scared of them. Gotcha. Okay. And you don't remember any dialogue. You don't remember any sense of maybe why they were attacking you? What was the purpose?
No dialogue at all. I didn't say anything to them, and they didn't say anything to me. There was no speaking in the entire dream.
Okay. Gotcha. So then you defeated her, and did he have any reaction to that as he was running up, or just animalistic? He's just charging. He's going to attack one way or the other. He had no reaction to her.
He seemed kind of timid, as if he saw me slay the other vampire and then was discouraged from advancing any further, and then had a moment of hesitation, but then he just hurled towards me as well.
Okay. He's like committed. This is happening. Even if he was like, whoa. Okay. And then, anything remarkable about how you defeated him? Was it easier, harder than the female?
About the same. I killed them both, each with just one blow. Easily. Not much of a fight. I mean, they had just their claws, and I had a big long sword, so... Yeah,
and the armor, too, and this particular type of creature, in your estimation, they probably couldn't claw through the metal, so there was just... You were well protected, well armed. They were stupid to do this. You were mostly annoyed and just kind of angry, like, I gotta do this. I gotta fight these things.
Yes. They also had glowing red eyes, but, they're vampires, so of course...
Sure, that may or may not be significant. And there he goes. He's laying on the papers again. Hi, son. He fits. Yeah. Okay. And it wasn't too long, son. I do need my papers, though. Hi. It wasn't too long after that you say, looked back at the castle, and the sun was starting to rise a little bit more, and then just woke up.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing remarkable or had changed about the castle itself. It still presented the same appearance.
Yep.
You didn't see anybody in the windows. Nobody came out the front door.
Nope.
Did your feelings towards the castle change in terms of it feeling ominous, foreboding, sinister, dangerous inside?
No, I just I felt the need to press forward and enter the castle and to figure out whoever was inside the castle. But then I woke up.
Okay. Yeah. So the first pass took like 2 minutes, and now we're a half an hour in here on the second pass. That's always how it goes. I'm going to make a note of the time. I don't know if you know, I do these like shortcut episodes where I cut out the second pass for people that are like, I'll listen to an hour episode. I'm not going to listen to a 2-hour episode. That kind of thing.
Right.
So that's the end of that. All right. So when I come to that point where we've gone through it once, gone through it again, I'd like to ask folks, in the telling or the retelling, did any connections form for you? Like, before I start making my own suggestions, like personally meaningful stuff, things like where you're like, oh yeah, when that happened and then that happened, this came to mind, something like that.
No, not really having any big revelations myself about the meaning of the dream.
Okay. Yeah. When you think about any events in your life that may have happened immediately prior to the dream, does anything come to mind? Any experiences that day or the day before? When you put the dream imagery on top of real life events?
Nothing of real significance in recent, the recent events that transpired before the dream. Just working average days. Nothing of real significance.
Okay.
As far as
and then on the flip side of things too, at that time, were you contemplating some kind of future events that were coming up? Any difficult things? Any complicated things? Any things projects you were going to need to tackle that might present a challenge?
Yeah, I got a new job and I was trying to figure out how to stick with it and continue on with the job because it was a pretty difficult job. Not sure if that's, of any big significance, but
Could be. I don't want to latch on to any one particular thing, but there's usually like why do we have dreams? Is you're processing what's going on in your real life. So I like to try and figure out what's happening around the time that is. So I mean, when you think of those, you kind of take the dream imagery, this knight on a quest or on a mission, at least headed to a destination. The destination may be dark and ominous and dangerous, and you're going to have difficulties, distractions, complications along the way. And you think of all that and your job and trying to figure out how to succeed at it. Does that ring a vibration of significance or
yeah, I think that might be a theme in the dream for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, I might have mentioned that. Well, I did. It was my words, so don't let me put them in your mouth. But the idea of the plate armor being made for business, made functional. It's like this is about getting the job done, and the job is protection of your skin versus attack. So there's something very functional in there. Yeah. So, but again, I don't want to focus down on that if it's not quite, because sometimes dreams are very much related to this event happened or this experience is happening in my life, and so I'm having this specific dream about it. And sometimes it's more broad strokes. You're just thinking about yourself in life in general. Some of the problems we face are more philosophical, and so the dreams can play those out. What do I think about this kind of thing? So there may be something in there too. A lot of this, in my mind, speaks to what feels like a strong sense of self-confidence coming from you. You've got the tools you need to get the job done. You're determined to get to the destination. And if problems come up, they're actually pretty easy to just slay those vampires and move on. So there's that was one theme that certainly popped up for me. Is that would you say you're typically a pretty self-confident person?
Oh yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I mean, just about the average amount of confidence that anybody else would have. I don't have self-esteem issues or anything like that, but I'm not narcissistic. Just average.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say too. Is that there's healthy self-confidence, just like too much is narcissism, not enough is hesitancy and unnecessary fear and anxiety, worry. So it's good that it seems like that's consistent with your personality in life. Is that you're as you're seeing yourself in this dream as someone capable of handling these challenges. That is how you feel when you're awake. So this isn't just pure fantasizing, wish fulfillment. This is actually consistent with who you are. That's a good thing to just kind of throw into the mix. I like the imagery. I like all the imagery. I don't think I've come across a dream where I say I don't like that imagery, but I do also like it because I love the whole fantasy setting and the quests and whatnot. But I like this idea that or rather, it feels important to me that there was these different transitions of landscape, and that usually represents something too. You're in the entry point is very wide open, it's grassy, but there's hills. So there's obstacles or, I don't know. The landscape isn't completely flat. It's like even at the very beginning, you're looking at it and there's going to be ups and downs, metaphorically, but also that the landscape, it's not going to be easy to traverse. You're actually going to have to go up and down. And then it takes you into a valley, and that's where you first start seeing trees. So that kind of transition from grassy hills to a tree-lined valley. I don't know if that brings anything to mind to you that,
Well, I live physically in a valley in real life. So
okay.
Perhaps that has some sort of symbolism of maybe the valley itself in the dream represents my home in real life.
Yeah, or at least something approximating home, something bringing you closer to, like your mind saying take this area, but then focus down a little bit more. We're talking specifically about something closer to home. So here's a representation of kind of what a home-like environment physically in this valley area. Do you also live near a river?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that may be focusing you down on that too. Is it a very similar river? I mean, do you have the similar trees, those kind of weeping willow trees, or?
No, I don't have those kind of weeping willow trees anywhere around where I live. And the river that was in the dream is far smaller than any of the rivers around me.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I'm wondering why those specific trees, because I mean, when you think about it, is that a visually pleasing type of tree? Just like looking at that kind of tree, you find it interesting to see it?
No, they're kind of weird, and they're
Okay.
kind of weird looking in many ways. They're not the kind of trees that people, will plant in their properties or anything.
Yeah, it's not a kind of tree that grows up and has like firm, strong branches reaching to the sky. That may be important too. It's like a lot of these images relate to how you feel about what you're seeing. So it's not something you would have preferred to see, and that's probably significant of something too in terms of maybe presenting something to you that's unpleasant, like a visual cue of what you're heading towards is not something you necessarily want. What am I trying to say? I mean, if that makes sense, maybe I shouldn't say too much and let you kind of run with the idea. How would you express that idea?
Well, maybe, the weeping willow tree is it's just like the hills in the grassy field. It's just another thing symbolizing that even when we're getting closer to home and getting closer to familiarity, there are still obstacles that you have to overcome.
Yeah. I'm classing it in my mind too in that area of like, some people enjoy a challenge, and that there's nothing wrong with that too, but a challenge is still a challenge. And so even seeing objects in your dreams that are not they're not repulsive, but they're not pleasing. There's kind of that area of like, if I had a choice, I would have wanted to see a different kind of tree. But here I'm actually seeing landscape, seeing trees that I don't prefer. That actually they give me this kind of weird feeling, like it's not even a real tree. Yep. What's going on here?
Exactly.
That is an interesting. Maybe we can come back around to it if it's that much more important, but maybe it's not. Sonny boy, I need just this paper right here. Oh, put those claws away. What are you, a vampire, son? I'm gonna get you. He's gonna kick my ass. Give me my paper. Hi. Okay, you can bite me. I need the paper. And then the next thing in terms of the physical landscape I was going to get to was this idea of the river. It is interesting that it's between you and the castle, and that the castle is on, or at least jutting out into, it's like pressed right up against this river, and the river is flowing towards the castle. There's this whole sense of focus in a lot of this dream imagery of reaching a destination. That's where the sun is rising. That's where the water's flowing to. That's where the valley descends to. So like a natural water flows downhill type of thing. Everything is kind of naturally taking you in this direction. You're not having to struggle against the current and fight your way in there. Everything's actually pretty easy to get where you're going. I don't know if you have any thoughts regarding that.
No, but that's just an interesting observation that I didn't even realize until now that you pieced together. Yeah, it's all very streamlined to the castle.
Yeah, it's almost like this narrowing, consistently, progressively narrowing focus to get you to this one place to have an experience. I don't know what the crossing of the river is. There's something in there too of like, because the castle was not on the same side. You've got this river, you've got water between you and the castle, and in order to get where you're going, you have to cross the water, but there's no bridge. That kind of stood out to me too. It's like the pathway was not made for you. No one had come before and said, here's a bridge, use it. You had to cross that river yourself. Do you find that experience in real life of you kind of having to make your own way Is there something?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's something relevant in there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What do you think about that in relation to kind of the dream and the ease with which you cross the river, despite there being no bridge?
Yeah, I guess that can just apply to real life experiences growing up, whereas like maybe the river is, one side of the river is childhood, the other one is adulthood, and I'm crossing the river to make my way in the world, but there's no bridge there, and I have to, pull myself up and buy my own car and fund my own education and get a job without the help of anybody else. And it was not super difficult for me to do. Maybe that's what it's about.
I think. Are you getting a phone call?
Oh no, it was just an Instagram notification.
Okay, yeah, I just buzzed there for a second. Wanted to make sure. We can always take a break if you needed to. I mean, we're not that far, like 45 minutes in, but if you gotta go to the bathroom or take a phone call, it's
No, not right now at least. Yeah.
no, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, no, I think that's very, very relevant too. That's there's a lot of transitions in this, and those are usually important of something, as I said, going from the grassy landscape, going down into the tree-lined valley and crossing a river. There's this kind of physical representation of a line. You're on one side of it, you're on the other, and on the other is the castle and the challenges. Very, very well in the dream, you could have at any point said, I don't want to do this, turn around, going back the other way. You could have stayed on one side of the river and just watched the castle as you kept walking towards the sunrise, but your mind took you there to that, to see something. And there's a lot of kind of triggering events too, where one thing happens after the other, and it was after crossing the river that you realized the castle had lights, that it was occupied, and that hadn't occurred to your mind until you got to the other side of that river. How soon after having the awareness that lights were on in the castle did you get the impression that it was dangerous or foreboding?
Immediately, like at the same point that I was looking at the castle and saw lights, it was the same.
Yeah.
The same moment.
Yeah, there seems something in there too. Like if you take those ideas, the idea of crossing the river, you immediately get to the other side. You've committed to crossing this boundary. That's when you become aware of the castle, that it's occupied, and that whatever occupies the castle is probably dangerous. What comes to mind when you think about those ideas?
Well, no, I mean, I think that your observations are accurate. I just I don't know what could be in the castle.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just broadly speaking, something dangerous, but also, by the end of it, something. And again, that didn't deter you. You didn't look at that and go, "Whoa! I just realized this is dangerous. I better go back the other way." You're like, quite the opposite. I better find out what's in there.
Yeah.
I think that kind of, I don't want to say specifically relate, but it's tangential to that self-confidence of self-confidence. Let's say your ability to, or your awareness of your own ability to succeed. But then there's also with that something separate, but that works together with it, is the determination to then act upon that ability. So you had both of those things working for you at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you got there outside the castle and you kind of arrived, and that's the moment when you started taking in the objects and buildings around you. Was there ever a moment when you wanted to walk up the trail towards the barn instead of going towards the house or the stable?
No. Okay. Not at all. It was purely background noise that I wasn't focused on.
Sure, but then that wagon caught your attention, and that's yeah. And a wagon is in a functional sense, it's a very useful tool for transport, for commerce, for again getting the job done. This is a lot of this is starting to sound like it might really be related to the concerns or contemplations about your work situation, because like stables and horses, very, very iconic of pulling a plow or a method of transportation. And so your mind was very much drawn down into, at that moment of kind of reaching the doorstep, quite literally, of your destination, you got distracted. You had your attention drawn to a wagon instead. I don't know if that brings anything to mind. I think there's something there.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe if it's symbolizing getting jobs done and working, then perhaps looking at the wagon for so long is symbolic of procrastinating and living with your parents for a while and stagnating and not, going out there and looking for a job, which I'm definitely guilty of and might have played a theme in
Sure.
the symbolism.
Yeah, if that makes sense to you, that's a very good connection, I think, because there's that. Because what is also a wagon? Wagon's something you ride in. It's very easy. Like you just giddy up horsey, and they take you where you're going. It's it may be the not the desire for it necessarily, but a contemplation of an alternative. There is literally an alternative path. You can go to the castle, or you can go off to this barn and these houses. It's kind of it feels to me like it could be your brain saying, here's a more difficult, dangerous task, and here's something a little easier. You want to think about that? Or just remember that it exists, whether you choose it or not. Although you never had that moment of saying, maybe I should go this way. It was always, I'm pretty determined. But at that moment, you're also having that experience of this other stuff did exist, does exist. Alternatives are present. Something in that.
Oh yeah. Just a minute. I do have to take a break.
I completely forgot. Hey, while he's taking a break, I'll do a little commercial. This is my book. This is actually physically my book. I wrote a book. There it is. That's the thing. Oh, I'm very proud of it. I'm also working on another one. This one will be, the second one will be even longer. I think it'll be of great interest to primarily, I'd say any Christian viewers out there who enjoy what I do and know that I do it humbly and without claiming to be a prophet of any kind. But you can get this one now. Links, of course, are in the description. And please buy my book. I'm very proud of it, and thank you.
Alrighty, I'm back. Just a quick one. All right, are you thinking that we're gonna move on to what the symbolism of the vampires next?
Oh yeah, probably. That's what I was thinking. 52. That was like 1 minute. And actually, I went ahead and did a little commercial for my book. I wrote a book, edited an old manuscript, but I'm also very proud of it. So gotta I don't know. I'm just feeling creative lately. So. I think we'd gotten to a lot of that stuff, and it is interesting that that's where the vampires came from. This attack was generated from down that alternative path that you never even considered taking. In a way, your mind generated a danger that was easy to overcome, but that it came from that direction, that there was some kind of a threat in what that pathway represented to you. I don't know if that brings anything to mind.
Yeah, well, I think that's a very good observation for sure. Yeah, I didn't think of that, but yeah, they came from that area, that path that I never considered. But I don't know what that path symbolizes really, what the houses and the barn symbolize.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah, and the idea that the working, the tools, the more functional thing, the wagon, the barn was first, and the living, the house was further down in the distance, but still it's actually from those houses that this threat came, and that they're specifically kind of animalistic, poorly adorned, not well kept clothes with this with the gold spiky jeweled necklace. I think that's definitely something too. So you've got these like vicious, aggressive, animalistic, humanoid-looking creatures. There's something in what they are that relates to why they came from that direction.
Probably.
Go ahead.
No, I just say probably their nature of them and their appearance probably has something to do with their origin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
I
I'm
mean,
wondering.
the thing is that they don't live in the castle, so that probably means something as well.
Yeah, yeah, and the fact that you knew that is that, or that at the very least they didn't come out of the castle. That wasn't the threat. There's actually something else more significantly more
Yeah.
dangerous in there that would actually make you feel that it was ominous, rather than like the vampires do. Like, this is easy. This is nothing. I got to deal with this. More annoyance than fear. Uh, there's something in there too. Is maybe it was related to a more active rejection of that path itself. Like, you looked at it, you saw something that you'd kind of described a moment ago as the appeal of maybe being less proactive in engaging your own future, and the appeal of it, this pretty wagon, easy to ride. That's maybe a free ride. That's an easy way to go, is in this wagon or that life. But that you recognize there are some inherent dangers in there, and the expression of defeating those dangers easily. I think I'm on the edge of something, but it's not.
You saying those things actually does make me realize that I have finally figured out the theme of the houses, that area to the left path, not necessarily the wagon, but
Sure.
The wagon might be part of it, but also the nature of the vampires and who and what they represent.
Lay it on me. I love it.
Yeah, well, it probably is stemming from a period of my life that I recently left behind. I changed my lifestyle, but I was living with a set of roommates at a different house, had a different lifestyle, different friends, a different job, and I was definitely stagnating and taking the easy way out, cheap as possible, living with friends who were generally low quality, with unproductive hobbies, and barely working at all, procrastinating with a bunch of things, and I would say, almost half a year ago, I got into a big argument with those friends and roommates, and then left that entire life behind, and then moved to a different place and got a different job. So maybe it represents that, and the vampires also represent those people that I left behind, that I stopped being friends with.
Yeah, there may be a portion of your mind that says, they were more of a drain on you. Goes, what does a vampire do? They suck your life away. So there may be something in there of like, this isn't helping me. Living this way with these people was not doing me any favors. And so but it's scary to say, challenge this, what is life, but it, in some sense, is a castle you have to assault to get inside to the riches, to scale the walls. Or there's this imposing challenge to life itself when you choose that path. But you're determined. You're like, this was nothing but a minor annoyance. I'm not even going to let it stop me. Onto the castle. And as the sun is coming up, and that's another transition too, rising and setting of the sun, times of change, but also that the iconic representation of the sun is shedding new light. The dark night is over. The shadows that hide dangers are fading away and giving way to the ability to see more clearly what's around you. So I think there's probably something going on with that in your mind, of this reinforcing, this, to bring it all together, this whole dream is telling you, I made a damn good decision. My life's on a much better path. And not only that, I can do this. I got this. Is that making sense in the big picture?
Yeah, most definitely. The only thing that I wonder is, what is it that, what exactly was inside the castle, and why was it a danger, and why did I want to go in there?
Yeah.
And does the castle represent life in general, does it represent like myself or what exactly?
Yeah. Some of these things. Now we could explore those and but also broad strokes. I think it may be significant that you never get inside in this dream, in this instance, is that there are these unanswered questions. Is like, you don't know what you're going to face. You just know that it's probably going to test you. It's probably going to be a challenge. It's probably going to be something that could be dangerous, and you're going to find out when you open that door, when you get in there, but you're determined to get in there. So I would say in general, my theory is that the dreams stop because you don't know. In real life, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how successful you don't know the challenges you're going to face as you move forward. But you're determined to find out. You're going to get in there and see what happens.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Well,
I think you've successfully decoded the entire dream.
I hope so. I blew me away. Remember when I was telling you like a half an hour ago, I have no idea what's going on. That's it. We got to get to this. We got to get to this point eventually. That's oh, I love it. I love that feeling. Sometimes I just want to just bask in it. Just that sensation of like, I can't believe that just happened. I love it. Well, were there any more like specific elements of the dream where you're like, can we go back to that, or I want to try to pull a little more meaning out of, or we good enough?
I think we about covered it, really.
Okay, yeah, these things don't have to drag on forever. I mean, I'll do a 2.5 hour episode, but they're not designed to be that long unless they just naturally occur. So an hour is plenty. Yeah. So I never know how to end these things. I'm so legit autistic and socially awkward. I just, but one thing I do want to say is, of course, thanks to our friend Landon for being here, for sharing this dream. I think it's fantastic. There he is. And if you would hang out maybe just 2 minutes afterwards, and we'll talk. I always talk to folks after things are over and make sure everything's kosher. But other than that, I'll just say hey to everyone one more time. I wrote a book. There it is. Yeah. You can find that and other links in the description to social media. Please like, share, subscribe, donate. I'd love to do this for my day job. So other than that, I'll just say this has been another episode of Dreamscapes, and thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.